Hello, and welcome back to the channel. We continue our visit to Normandy, and we leave the coast and head inland to visit Rouen, the capital of Normandy.
And if you like our video, do not forget to like it, subscribe and activate notifications so that you know when we upload a new video.
Continuing our journey through Normandy, after visiting the pretty village of Veules-les-Roses, we leave the coast for good to head back inland. On our way to Rouen, the capital of Normandy, we make a short stop at one of the viewpoints of the Seine River, whose location we are leaving for you on Google Maps, and from which, on the other bank, we can see Jumièges, a town known above all for the ruins of its impressive abbey, founded in 654 and destroyed by the Vikings in 841. After this impressive panoramic view of the Seine River, we arrive in Rouen, a city of about 120,000 inhabitants and the capital of the Normandy region. After crossing the Seine River via one of its many bridges, we arrive at Place Saint-Marc, where one of the city's oldest and largest markets is held. From this square, we enter the historic center, where we will see countless half-timbered houses, some over 500 years old, arriving at a small square next to the Saint-Maclou church, where the Hôtel Saint-Maclou, an ancient medieval cemetery created during the Black Death, with an inner courtyard surrounded by ossuary galleries created due to the lack of space for burials. Circling the Saint-Maclou church, at the end of the street we find another half-timbered house, with the peculiarity that it is leaning. Built in the 17th century, its tilt is due to the destruction of the neighboring houses, and it was the home of one of the city's most important shoemakers. We arrive at the small and beautiful Place Barthélemy, from which we can see the Saint-Maclou church, a jewel of flamboyant Gothic art, with an impressive facade that survived the Second World War, and whose interior we could not visit as a Mass was being celebrated. From the Saint-Maclou church, we enter Rue Damiette, which, together with Place Saint-Maclou or Rue Martinville, forms part of the Antiques Dealers Quarter, a street with beautiful half-timbered houses, some of which protected as historical monuments, and on whose ground floors we find antique shops and local artisans, ending in a small, pretty square with views of the Saint-Ouen Abbey Church. Very close by, we find Rue de Robec, once crossed by the Robec River, and which today is a succession of beautiful half-timbered houses, along which a small water channel runs. Parallel to this beautiful street, if we head towards the Saint-Ouen Abbey Church, we find the Jardin de l'Hôtel de Ville, a pretty park created in the early 19th century where one can rest in the shade of chestnut and plane trees. Walking through the park, we discover the Saint-Ouen Abbey Church, which was one of the most important Benedictine monasteries in Normandy, a masterpiece of medieval Gothic and which many mistake for the cathedral due to its majestic proportions. From this beautiful Gothic jewel, we head towards the cathedral through narrow streets like Rue Saint-Ouen, with a small monument dedicated to Claude Monet, who immortalized the cathedral several times in his paintings. Very close by, through a narrow passage, we enter Rue des Chanans, one of the most intriguing and narrowest streets in the city, with some sections barely a meter wide, and which in medieval times was the path followed by monks on their way to the Mass held twice a day in the cathedral. This curious street leads to Rue Saint-Romain, one of the most beautiful in the historic center, with half-timbered houses from the 15th and 16th centuries, and on which we find the Archbishop's Palace, which houses the historical Jeanne d'Arc, where you can learn more about this French heroine in relation to her history, her trial, and her legacy. This street surrounds the cathedral, and on it we find the librarian's door, one of the 13th century side doors. At the end of Rue Saint-Romain, we reach the cathedral, an impressive example of French Gothic architecture, depicted on canvas by Claude Monet over 30 times. Its facade features two impressive towers, and the central tower, the tallest in France at 151 meters high, which can be climbed after overcoming 150 steps. In its magnificent Gothic interior, you can find several royal tombs, such as the William of Normandy, the embalmed heart of Richard the Lionheart, or the beautiful librarian staircase by which the monks accessed the library. From the cathedral facade, we access Rue du Grand Horloge, the street of the Great Clock, the busiest in the city, where we find the Great Clock, a beautiful astronomical clock from the 13th century that still works today, attached to a tower with impressive panoramic views of Rouen. After passing under the clock, on the right we find Rue Majestic, or Massacre Street, named not because of a human massacre, but because here in the Middle Ages, butchers would slaughter their animals, with blood running through the street. Following the street of the Great Clock, we arrive at the Place du Vieux Marseille, the Old Market Square, where alongside a bustling market we find the Church of Joan of Arc, a modern church that contrasts with the pretty, colorful, half-timbered houses that surround it. The church was built in 1979 on the site where Joan of Arc was burned alive in 1431, with a large cross marking the exact spot. Inside, its impressive ceiling stands out, which, as a tribute to Norman tradition, is shaped like an upward overturned ship's keel, as well as the beautiful 16th century Renaissance stained glass windows that belong to the Church of St. Vincent, bombed in 1944. And in this historic square, where we also find the remains of the Saint Sulpior Church, we conclude our visit to the capital of Normandy, of which there are still places left to discover.